Dusty old camping relics sit beneath an imposing sandstone overhang perched above Govett Gorge in the mountain's upper Gross Valley. Remnants of a secluded retreat once used by a family early last century. A place filled with adventure, yet ruled by Mother Nature. What's the story behind this place? Eric Payten Dark was one very interesting bloke. Born in 1889 in Middagong, New South Wales, Eric's work life kicked off at Sydney's RPA Hospital. His stint as resident radiographer may have been brief, but it set him on a trajectory in the medical field that would help define his life. At the age of 26, he was appointed a temporary lieutenant in the Royal Army Medical Corps, sailing off to England in 1915. By the time Eric arrived in Europe, the First World War was already well underway. He was sent to the Western Front, where he spent 5 months with the 18th General Hospital, followed by 2 years with the 9th Field Ambulance. It was work carried out close to the fighting, under conditions few could ever truly prepare for. In 1917, serving as temporary captain, Eric distinguished himself during the Battle of Ypres. On 31 July at Buzinger, he repeatedly evacuated wounded men under heavy fire, an act that earned him the Military Cross. Later that same year, still on the front, he was attempting to better treat casualties when he removed his gas mask and was badly affected by gas, which left him temporarily blinded. After a 6-month recovery in England, Eric returned to Australia. Eric married Kathleen Dady Raymond in 1918, a nurse he'd previously met at the RPA before World War I started. Just 3 months after their wedding, Eric was back in Europe, serving out the remainder of the conflict in the Vardar marshes on the Macedonian front. He came back home in 1919, and the couple settled in the southern tablelands town of Bungendore, where Eric took up work as a GP. In 1920, their son John was born, but the happiness of that moment was short-lived. Within weeks of giving birth, Dady died from septic peritonitis, leaving Eric a widower and a new father. Devastated, Eric returned to Sydney, where he became a demonstrator in the anatomy department at the University of Sydney. 2 years later, he married Eleanor O'Reilly, and the couple spent almost a year living in Five Dock before moving to the Blue Mountains. In 1923, Eric purchased a medical practice in Katoomba, and with it a substantial home known as Varuna. A house that would become central to the family's life and legacy in the mountains. 5 years later, in 1928, Eric and Eleanor welcomed a son, Michael. During the 1920s, they became involved in a local circle of literary and bushwalking friends, and in the 1930s they all established what was possibly the first organised rock climbing club in Australia, the Blue Mountaineers, although they were dubbed by locals as the Katoomba Suicide Club. The group pioneered climbs on the Three Sisters, along Narrow Neck and deep within the Gross Valley, pushing into terrain few had dared to explore before. Eric and Eleanor loved living in the mountains, where they'd take long drives, immerse themselves in gardening, tennis, golf and bushwalking, and of course rock climbing. Eric was also a political conservative. In his work as a doctor, he witnessed the impact of an economic system under stress on the lives of his patients. With the coming of the Depression, he underwent a radical political transformation. Eric joined the Australian Labor Party and became actively involved in local politics. Despite failing twice at local council elections, he still succeeded in making changes to the local community. A new children's library, healthy lunches at the school tuck shop, and childcare facilities for female workers during the Second World War. In his early 50s, Eric enlisted in the Volunteer Defence Corps, developing a branch in the Blue Mountains. He spent 3 years as a sergeant in the VDC, training men in the skills of bushcraft. He and 5 other men were tasked to find spots in the mountains from which, in the event of Japanese occupation, guerrillas could set up bases from which to harass the enemy. Years later, Eric even told a journalist he thought the task was futile, that the Japanese would invade any time. Eric honestly believed that, after a short resistance, he'd die fighting a guerrilla war in the Blue Mountains. The Darks already had a cave they found on one of their numerous explorations of the area. This one here, located above Govett Canyon, just off Fortress Ridge. Along with their 2 boys, they spent quite a bit of time here. The cave sprawls beneath the overhang. It's dry, sheltered, and is perfectly suitable for sleeping in. At the far end is a waterfall, which was the water source for the Darks, a clear pool at its base. The main cave was the centre of their retreat. There was ample room to roll out sleeping bags, and it had been thoughtfully fitted out with a fireplace, along with pots, pans, and a range of everyday items that made extended stays possible. When I first visited several years ago, there were many more objects still here. Metal plates, cutlery, and other simple campware left behind by the Darks. Over time, though, much of that has disappeared, taken by visitors rather than left to preserve the story. This backgammon set is still in pretty good nick, and likely filled hours of gaming. The checkers have gone, but inside there's a laminated blog article and a bio about the Darks, along with guest books where more recent visitors have left their own mark. It was here that Eleanor, the iconic Australian author she was, did quite a bit of writing. She even named the cave Jerikilimi, flippantly remarking to people it meant retreat of the Dark people. In actuality, it was a composite of the family's Christian names. In these old photos, you can spot a small pool they used, a natural waterhole along the creek below the cave, perfect for cooling off on warmer days. You can spot it when looking down from the cave. There's no visible track down there, but with a bit of scratchy bush bashing along the creek, it's accessible, as I discovered. Not far beyond the cave, and along the same level, a narrow, precarious ledge juts out over Govett Gorge. The view from here is nothing short of spectacular. Reaching the cave is pretty straightforward. You find it via a short in and out track branching off the Fortress Ridge Trail. The descent into the gully is steep, but once you're at the creek, the walk to the cave is easy. It's a spot that's well worth the sweat to explore. Getting back up that track, however, is a definite workout for the legs. Dr. Dark's cave stands as a quiet reminder of a life shaped by courage, adventure, and a love of the mountains. From its old relics to breathtaking views over Govett Gorge, it's a place where a family and their friends were at one with nature, and where every step tells a story.